Okay, great. Good day, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, Secure Your Cloud Best Practice Innovation from Google Experts. I'm Yakunel, I'm the CTO at Deimos, and I'll be your host today. We're excited to have everyone here, and we're excited to start deep diving into some critical topics surrounding cloud security and some best practices to help you improve your cloud security posture. Joining me are two exceptional engineers, Fatu Fall from Google, who brings deep expertise in the Google Cloud Security toolsets and recent innovations made by Google in the security landscape. And Dean Hunt, a principal engineer at Deimos with extensive experience in building, deploying, and operating secure cloud infrastructure at scale. Together, we'll dive into some practical insights to help you strengthen your cloud security posture, and we'll dive into the supporting tool sets and available tools on Google Cloud to help you manage your security landscape. Before we jump into today's content, I just want to introduce Deimos. Deimos is a cloud-native developer and security operations company focused on helping businesses implement tailored cloud solutions. Our expertise lies in cloud-native infrastructure, including hybrid and multi-cloud deployments. Our aim is to help our technology partners, help our clients leverage technology to the best of their abilities and to gain the most value from technology. We offer a range of professional services from cloud-native architectures, cloud migration, security consulting and implementation, cloud optimizations, infrastructure management, bespoke software development, and much more. We are the only Google Cloud partner in Africa to have obtained our Google Cloud Security Specialization, and have also been recognized by the Financial Times as one of Africa's fastest growing companies. The award from Financial Times was awarded to us 2 years in a row, 2023 and 2024. I believe that our expertise have us well positioned to help you and our clients navigate the complexities of cloud security at scale. We serve a diverse range of clients from highly regulated industries, including e-commerce, fintech, and iGaming. Many of our clients are in highly regulated environments where data sovereignty, data compliance, and regulations are quite strict. Our clients trust in us to help them navigate these environments, these regulatory and government environments, operations, and we help them ensure that their cloud infrastructure not just meets those expectations, but exceed it. Some of our key clients include the Central Bank of Nigeria, where we've helped them adopt and secure the cloud, particularly our interest and our involvement in the Naira project. Makuru, a leading fintech company, they rely on us to help them secure the handling of their financial transactions across borders. And finally, I just want to mention Jumia, one of Africa's largest e-commerce platforms, who partners with us to safeguard their data and ensure smooth, secure operations to the millions of their customers. Our extensive experience in these industries mean we understand specific challenges that you and others face and can supply tailored cloud solutions to help you meet compliance, security, and operational needs. We're a trusted Google Cloud partner, and we offer unique benefits that sets us apart from others in the area. First of all, I do need to mention our flexible billing and exclusive savings. So we provide a 25-day payment terms, and a very key sort of value from our aspect is also the ability to pay in the currency of your choice, whether it be Naira, USD, Kenyan shillings, South African rand. Additionally, our deep partnerships with Google does allow us to unlock exclusive funding opportunities and discounts to maximize your cloud investments. And then, of course, we do strategically manage your cloud spend as part of this partnership as well, ensuring that we stay on top of anomalies, stay on top of the cloud spend, and ensure that you get the most value for the least amount. Second, we provide proactive guidance and expert support. So we try and position ourselves as a first line of defense for you and your team, from where we then escalate into the Google team should any deeper expertise be required. And lastly, we'll actually get a single point of contact from procurement to deployment, billing and support, everything's handled by Deimos. Single point of contact. We smooth out the operations and processes and help you gain the most value from that cloud partnership. Best part of all, we do this as a value add. It means that there's no extra cost for you as the client. Now let's dive into today's objectives. We'll be sort of doing a bit of understanding around the current landscape, current threat landscape, just getting a bit of insights into what we're seeing happening today in cloud and the security portion of cloud, both in Africa and globally. We'll then start deep diving a bit into best practices in cloud security specific to Google Cloud Platform, where we will give you practical tips on how to improve your security posture. We'll then move on to exploring the innovative solutions that Google brings from their perspective. Fatu will take us through some of the tools that can help us ease the process of managing our security posture, bring visibility into our security risks. The session should last about 40 minutes, followed by a 15-minute Q&A. And feel free to submit your questions through the activities icon in the bottom right. It's the little triangle, square, and circle as indicated on the screen. At the end of the presentation, I will be sharing a quick survey. Your feedback's invaluable to us to help improve future sessions. Now let's kick off. Let's start off with the current threat landscape. Over the last couple of years, we've seen quite a lack in security awareness, specifically in the African industry. Many of the clients we engaged with didn't have any form of security budget allocated and lacked quite a bit of security skills within their team. There still seems to be quite a shortage on security skills, specifically on the continent. At some point, Deimos took 12+ months to hire 4 security engineers into our team. And we're also noticing that executive teams are still not allocating sufficient budget to security initiatives. The trend is starting to turn. We are starting to see a turn of tides, and we are starting to see security awareness increasing, and we are starting to see business executives take security seriously. So this is also supported by data from the DigitalOcean's survey in 2024, suggesting globally that we're seeing a 57% estimated increase in security budget. This increase in security awareness and security budget could be driven by fintech industries, regulations, and data sovereignty laws being applied. Specifically, if you look towards countries like Egypt. Even though we are seeing more awareness and more effort and more resources being pushed into security, we're still seeing an increase in security incidents. We're still seeing a rise in security incidents, especially on the African continent. The 2024 FAILS Cloud Security Study, a new report from an IT services and consulting company, shows that 72% of organizations have seen a rise in attacks targeting specifically their cloud accounts, their cloud infrastructure. Another noteworthy point in that specific survey is that 44% of respondents have experienced cloud data breaches due to human error or misconfiguration. To drive that specific point through a bit further, Gartner predicts that through 2025, more than 99% of cloud breaches will be due to misconfiguration. We really do want to focus the remainder of this webinar to raising out some of these misconfigurations we see and help you mitigate it, help you put the necessary practices in place, put the necessary tooling in place to ensure you are not a victim to security breach due to misconfigurations. Why is misconfiguration such a large contributor to the security breach? Well, it stems from the increase in complexity of the cloud infrastructure. We're noticing a significant trend towards either multi-cloud or hybrid cloud deployments. Data sovereignty laws being one of the drivers, regulations being another driver. Some studies are suggesting that globally, up to 78% of organizations are using either multi-cloud providers or a hybrid cloud setup. These architectures significantly more complex than running a single cloud deployment, and results in significantly more complex configuration, which of course then opens the door to an increased attack surface. The risks of mitigations are threefold. Data breaches. Lately in the news, you would notice quite a bit of data breaches happening across the world. Oftentimes what we've seen in our own networks is that those data breaches tend to be a small misconfiguration, a small configuration list, a Google Cloud storage bucket that was open to public access without intention. Compliance failure is another risk of misconfiguration, where you can result in violations and regulations like GDPR, HIPAA, PCI DSS, and could lead to either your licenses being revoked or to hefty fines and financial impacts. And the last one would be increased attack surfaces. We've mentioned already the increased complexity in multi-cloud, hybrid cloud architectures, and how it results in a broader area for misconfiguration, thus directly increasing your attack surface. Impact of security incidents, just to make sure that we're all aligned. I don't think I need to reiterate these risks to most of the individuals on this call. But of course, there are financial impacts, which directs cost to data breaches, the data compensation, recovery of data. It could be regulatory fines. It could be revocation of your licenses in particular industries. Operational disruption. So operational disruption could be your e-commerce system or your fintech systems taken offline. Not so in those scenarios, your customers are unable to operate on your platform. Once again, that could have direct or indirect impact. Other operational disruptions could be internal systems that have been brought down, preventing your team from being able to perform their responsibilities. Intellectual property theft and competitive disadvantages. Property theft would be where attackers would target intellectual property. They could, in essence, sell that intellectual property as well to their benefit. And the last one that's often overlooked is reputational damage and loss of customer trust. It's one that I often want to reiterate with our clients and reiterate with everyone in conversations, is that oftentimes, especially in a financial industry, if you've lost trust of your client, they will move elsewhere. This is seen probably in the most recent attack on LastPass, the LastPass security breach. Since that breach, we've seen a significant amount of individuals moving to other password managers, moving away from LastPass. And it's not that there were any financial impact to the customer, it's that loss of trust. So as we've gone, the current security threat landscape is marked by various challenges that organizations must navigate to protect their operations and integrity. As we've sort of reiterated, misconfiguration is extremely common and can result in severe security breaches. In the next session, we'll explore best practices that can help organizations strengthen their cloud security posture and safeguard their sensitive data and information. So I'm going to hand over to Dean. Dean, the show is yours.
Thank you, Jaco. So for this section, we're going to expand on essentially what we define like the common best practices for guarding against misconfiguration. So identifying that in the cloud, running applications, running infrastructure, there's these misconfigurations that can lead to exposure of an attack surface that leads to compromise. It's data loss, it's data exfiltration, it's applications being used, compromised completely. So one of the key aspects we see happening is cloud storage. So we tend to look at what is the best practices and what are those ways of safeguarding against these attacks. Is for cloud storage, we refer to like buckets, applications in the cloud for their primary storage. They use a lot of like cloud storage buckets or these technologies. we've seen a lot of the times the simple things is default configuration or configuration that is set in a way that is not enforcing least privilege access. So that means only allowing the minimum of permissions necessary. So not exposing buckets to the public internet. It's easy to access and utilize that bucket once it's public accessible, but taking into consideration when there's sensitive data in there, having unique names or unique identifiers like a user ID that is enumerable doesn't necessarily make it secure. It becomes like obfuscated. So keeping all these things in mind and protecting your data and having the auditability of what is exactly accessing and ensuring that the application can only access it is sort of a key aspect around securing cloud storage. So looking at that, looking at enabling cloud audit logs, a very other key aspect is object version and retention policies. You also want to sort of protect your, especially when you're dealing with sensitive data, you want to protect that user's data and ensure that you're not retaining that data outside of its usage period. So in other words, you want a storage life cycles and policies applied to your bucket so that you can have data archived or deleted when necessary, as well as having the ability in the event of a compromise due to misconfiguration to have the ability to recover from accidental deletion or malicious deletion or modifications. Using VPC service controls, you can then have service and security parameters to reduce the risk of data exfiltration, being that your service controls allows you to only access that data from within your network or within trusted services. And the other configuration that we always recommend and practice is encrypt sensitive data, be it at rest and when needed in transit. Even so, in transit over public networks at all times, even to the extent of within a private network. Leveraging data loss prevention APIs that GCP offers, you can prevent the unintentional exposure of personally identifiable information and assist with sort of keeping compliance with regulations in the territories. Another area where misconfiguration happens more commonly, and it's around sort of the paradigm we're in today when it comes to deployments and CI/CD is Kubernetes. So looking specific at something like GKE, our best practice recommendation is always using private clusters. So being that do not expose your Kubernetes nodes to the public internet, rather disable public access to your control plane. This allows sort of your API restricted and the ability to operate within an authorized network. This also ties to exposing your application via, or rather the egress, the outgoing internet via CloudNet for outbound internet access. Again, not giving your nodes a IP address, a public IP address specifically, but rather letting them be private and talk to the outside internet via a CloudNet, via that gateway. So you have more granular control over your network. The other thing that comes in that we're going to expand on is workload identity federation. So treating every pod, every workload within your an ecosystem as a granular permission layer, giving them their own service account, giving them their own role and permission so that you can find granular, determine what APIs on Google Pod can access or what services it can essentially talk to, what it has permission to do, instead of having it assume like from a compute engine instance, like what is the default service account, and then essentially not have principle of least privilege and you have every pod on your network having the same permissions. So network policy is the other thing. If your service is not, or workload is not required to talk to anything else within the cluster, isolate it, reduce that attack surface. Always treat it from the aspect that a workload can be compromised, but in the event that compromise, ensure that it's the risk and sort of the blast radius is as small as possible. So another recommendation we always have is utilize network policies. Never default to allow access to everything. Rather limit as granular as possible to what it needs to access. So touching again from Kubernetes, looking at workload identity federation, it's sort of a key building block, and it's something we see sort of taken for granted and not utilized to its fullest in a lot of configurations, because it's easier to use default service account, get my application running, and get access to all the buckets, Cloud SQL, all the features within my cluster or within my project that I need access, but not keeping in mind that by that you lose the ability of least privilege principle, and you're not giving fine-grained access for each of your services, applications, or let's say workloads within that ecosystem. So we always give the recommendation of having the binding of that policy for a Kubernetes service account to a Google service account, in that you can control what the Google service account has permissions access to, and by that assigning that to your workload within Kubernetes. Secret management is also another topic that comes up a lot based on how applications are written, how they're designed. They interact and incorporate secrets in different ways. They store it in .env files, deployed, running inside a container. It's baked into an image. It's pulled via Kubernetes, or it's pulled via Google Secrets Manager. How our recommendations is there's different scenarios, but it always comes down to is that credential sensitive? If that credential is sensitive, and you don't want to compromise, or you want to limit what the unlikely event of your instance or your workload being compromised, you don't want the secrets to be exposed. So this is where we bring like recommendations for Google Secret Manager, where you have a application runtime and at deploy time pulling these secrets in, giving fine-grained access control through a workload identity to these secrets, instead of baking them in either in an unencrypted fashion through Kubernetes secrets by default, or just pulling them and dropping them into a file variable type that is still, once that pod is compromised, or like running containers compromised, it's accessible. So looking at the container as well, our recommendations and best practices around container security is always to start small. It's to keep your attack surface at a bare minimum. Always run what you need. Run the lowest possible base image. Do not run, so say if your instance doesn't need Ubuntu, like the entire Ubuntu, run a smaller image, run Arch, run Alpine. Always install what you need. Keep it as lightweight as possible, and something that you can manage and understand what is running on that container. We spoke about the secrets manager, and it's always coming back to secretless. Don't embed secrets when you're building your images, or when you're running your container. Try and keep that outside of your runtime as little as possible, and keep them instead in memory, pulled at a specific time. Don't have them running as files. So in the event a file system compromise on a container, that credentials are pulled. This also ties into, again, rootless. Don't run as root with escalate privileges. Ensure that the only binary or executable that is on that container is your running application. Nothing else can be pulled from the public internet and run and execute it on there, such as like a crypto miner or any other malicious binary. It also ties into the limitation of capabilities and disabling that privilege escalation. Again, no root, rather have a specific user created with a set permissions that is aligned with running your application. The other thing is, if it's possible, and a lot of the time when engineers write stateless applications, we don't need a file system that is write capability. You can have read-only file system. This helps reduce your attack surface, that nothing new can be introduced into the runtime. And only thing on a compromised container like that is it's in a read-only state. There is only so much that can occur on it. And the last one from container side is binary authorization, giving your containers and images the ability to have guardrails in place that you can only run signed and images built by you, so that you know within your ecosystem, within your Kubernetes environment, that you are running images that you trust and they are not pulled from an unauthorized source or injected into your supply chain unintentionally or unauthorized. So that also ties into sort of looking again at the key aspect of data protection. We've touched on encryption at rest, encryption as transit. So the default, you'd have all your things encrypted at rest to a certain degree, what you're storing and what you have on edge. In transit, you again think about it from within your private network, but be specific and ensure always that you're encrypting anything from either your user data or your API data, have that over at least a TLS connection. And if you're pairing with other third-party networks, look at having VPN IPsec tunnels to ensure that you always have a secure connection over public internet. IAM, so identity access management, always have role-based access control, and to MFA for access for sensitive data. And we touched a bit on data exfiltration protection, that is preventing unauthorized data from leaving a secure environment. So that is why data loss prevention policies and monitoring tools, so using DLP APIs or any of the various tools supported by Google. And to sort of finish off, it's also looking not just from the cloud infrastructure, but it's the application security in the cloud. So it's the landscape becomes large when it comes to what are the best practices and what is sort of available to secure. And this is sort of that ongoing effort to better improve the security posture of your services. So it's always bringing the recommendations of secure development practices, bringing that governance into an organization where security is taken from the start as a shift left approach to bringing in security practices during that development process and not just in the runtime when it's deployed, having the necessary observability to detect anomalies and react on and be proactive on mitigating security incidents, bringing in open standards like OWASP for sort of looking at your top 10 web vulnerabilities in your current landscape, and the adoption of that, utilizing Google's Security Command Center to surface all this data at real time, and also with continuous monitoring and vulnerability management. So being aware of what your vulnerabilities are, managing them, and using this data to mitigate them. So yeah, that is all from best practices in cloud security. Jaco, land over.
Thank you, Dean. So Dean's highlighted several key practices that organizations can implement to help mitigate risks and enhance their security posture. We particularly focused on sort of common misconfigurations and potential ways to mitigate those common misconfigurations, specifically to the more complex multi-cloud or hybrid cloud deployments. Now, as we transition into our final section, we'll explore innovative approaches in cloud security from the Google tools and the offering that Google has in terms of advanced security tools designed to not only protect your data, but to streamline your security management processes. Fatri will discuss how these tools operate and how you can utilize these tools in more detail, and how they can help you drive innovation in your cloud security strategy. Fatri, over to you.
Thank you, Jaco. So, as Jaco mentioned, I will basically give you the overview of the security solution we have at Google Cloud. So, I would say from what we saw earlier, we all agree that having a strong cloud security is very essential today. In that way, Google Cloud provides a set of solutions that can help you to identify vulnerabilities, avoid the breach, and also have a visibility of your security in cloud, and that's where you'll be able to make some remediation. So when we talk about security solution at Google Cloud, it covers mainly 3 areas. The first one will be how do we secure our cloud platform? It's basically all the tools and solutions that we have that help you and I would say natively integrated in Google Cloud Platform that help you to secure your infrastructure. And on top of that, we have also solutions that I would say not natively integrated into Google Cloud, but can help you to have a better visibility of your cloud infrastructure in general, and also if you have different assets deploying on-premise or if we are using other cloud provider. That will be our CM solution. And also we have our own, I would say, GTI, Google Threat Intelligence tool that help you to be aware of any breach and any threat happening in the world's environment, in the worldscape threat. And that help you to I would say to be aware of what's happening right now, and you can make your organization better prepared to deal with cyber attacks. So AI is everywhere today. So of course, our solution use AI. So we use the power of AI to make our solution faster and more effective. So now just let's have a look at our solution and the associate product. So I will first start with the secure our cloud platform part. So meaning basically what are the tools that we have that can help you to secure your cloud platform. It covers different areas from identity management, network security, data protection, and development. I think we saw some of our solution in action on what Dean was presenting earlier with the best practices that you can use. This is basically the tools that we have. On this slide there, you have some examples that Dean already mentioned earlier. Another solution that I want to highlight here is our security command center solution. Basically, it helps you to have visibility and insight on what's happening in your environment, any vulnerability that you may have, and any insight. I will be focusing on this solution because it's basically, I would say, a must-have when you are deploying Google Cloud and you have the service in Google Cloud today. So basically, what is Google Security Command Center? Our solution have 4 main features. The first one will be the visibility. It will give you a view of what resource you have deployed in your Google Cloud platform, and you'll also be able to track any change made in your Google Cloud environment that gain you visibility of what's happening at the moment in my environment. We also have the functionality, the risk management functionality. Basically, will give you insight on any misconfiguration happening in your Google Cloud, or if you have any vulnerability, OS vulnerability, or web app vulnerability. And the third module will be the threat detection. We use our own, I would say, intelligence here to detect some malicious activities or suspicious activities happening in your environment. You will be able to see through a dashboard all the suspicious activity that Google detects and give you some, I would say, step and remediation step and recommendation on how to solve these issues. And the last one will be the compliance part. So basically, in some use case, you should be, or you need to be compliant with some standards. With Security Command Center, you should be able to see how compliant you are and what you need to do to be fully compliant. So how our solution work? Just to give you an overview of how basically it's worked behind. So it's a monitoring solution. So what Security Command Center will do, basically, it will continuously monitor your Google Cloud environment to discover assets, identify misconfiguration, web app vulnerabilities, and detect threat in near real time. And it will use some of our built-in services. So with our cloud, I would say discovery cloud asset inventory services, you will able to have a complete picture of your cloud resource, seeing what you deploy, when it was deployed, and if there is any change happening on my deployment. And again, who made this change. With the security health analytics module, you'll be able to identify any security risk in your services. With the web security scanner, it will help you to detect and scan your vulnerability on your web application. And our last module will be the threat detection and the container detection one that will help you to identify any malicious activities happening in your environment. And also you will be able to, be able to have some recommendation that Security Command Center will give you, and you will be able to take action quickly to remove, I would say, all the vulnerability that the tool highlights, or I would say discover. Just to give you some example of what you can see on Security Command Center, this is basically the kind of misconfiguration. And I think Dean also highlighted on during the best practices part, what you should do. And what Security Command Center will give you if you haven't applied these best practices, it will give, it will say you, it will tell you, I would say, and also show you through a dashboard. This is the kind of misconfiguration that you have right now. Basically, you have a storage who is publicly open to the internet. You have SSH misconfiguration. Your networking is too permissive. You have a lot of public IP address open to the internet. You are not monitoring your application. You don't have monitoring enabled. Or also, some you on GKE, some private cluster are disabled. As I said, it's a must-have. If today you have Google resource, you should be able to, you should deploy Security Command Center to have this overview, at least, of your misconfiguration and to see what you should do to be totally secure on GCP. But this is just to summarize. Security Command Center is kind of monitoring solution that give you an overview of what's happening in your environment. But in some case, you want to go further. In the case of you have, I would say, other cloud provider, you are deploying resources on-premise, you may want to have a few complete overview of your infrastructure and the security posture. That's where we have other solutions that may help you. Basically, our CM solution, which is Google Security Operation Platform, or we call it Google SecOps. Google SecOps will help you to detect, investigate, and respond quickly to the threat that you may have, or the threat that the solution discover. So how does it work? Basically, you need to ingest all your security log in our solution, and the tool will apply this on threat intelligence that will help you to identify any threat that you have, and will give you any recommendation on how you can solve it, and also how you can respond to this threat. And our solution is not working alone, because of course we need some threat intel. And that is our other solution that we have here. Is our Google Threat Intel. Google Threat Intel will give you visibility into threats and will help you to be aware of what's happening on the security landscape. And you will be also able to take action. Based on the insight that you receive from the solution, you'll be also able to take action. And another functionality that we have in our solution, the Google Threat one, is if in some case you need help to identify your threat, to discover, to make your environment more secure, you can leverage our Mangen team, which is an expertise, a team of experts that can help you to secure your environment. I mentioned the AI part earlier, meaning that we have AI on our solution everywhere. I think you should be aware of our Gemini solution and our Gemini AI. And this solution, I would say AI is also integrated in our solution. Basically, we have Gemini in Security Command Center, Gemini in Security Operation, and Gemini is in Threat Intel. So the idea behind is just to make your life easier, I would say. For instance, with Gemini in Security Command Center, you will be able to translate some complex attack into a easy and understand way for people, maybe they are not security expert, to understand what's happening and how they can move quickly. With Gemini in Security Operation, you'll be able to have a summary of the threat that will be detected by Gemini, that will be detected by Google SecOps. You'll be able to generate queries and also to have to build playbook that can help you to respond quickly to this threat. And also we have Gemini in Threat Intel that help you to summarize all the insight that you receive from the tool. And again, I would say the objective behind is help you to respond quickly and have a better understanding of what's happening in your threat environment. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Patu. Thanks for taking us through the various innovative security projects and security tooling provided by Google. And specifically, thank you for deep diving into Security Command Center and helping us establish how that specific tool set can be used to combat misconfiguration and help secure our overall posture, security posture in the cloud. We're going to take a few minutes just to take questions so please feel free to submit your question through the activities icon in the bottom right. It's the little triangle that consists of a square, a triangle, and a circle. Once you've clicked on that activities icon, there is a Q&A section from which you can submit any questions, ask any questions. While we are gathering questions, I do want to sort of just share a link to our survey in the general chat and ask anyone to please fill out the survey for us. We do value any feedback that can help us shape the future of our webinars and sessions. Okay, I've got two questions coming in, so just again, please feel free. Any questions are welcome. There's no such thing as a bad question. We're here to sort of help you out in any way. So one of the questions that did pop through the Q&A session is regarding techniques that can be used to access private clusters. I'm assuming it's around once you have taken your Kubernetes cluster as an example, you have internalified all of the various APIs and activity. You're no longer exposing a public API, only private API. What are some of the techniques that you can use to, as an example, access that API through kubectl, through the control plane of a CLI? Dean, I think that's one that you can take for us.
Yeah, so there's various methods of accessing. So once it's private, but you still sort of necessarily for development, for debugging, you want that access. Identity of web proxy is one of the methods. It's just having that secure authentication and authorization access to your cluster. So you're accessing your cluster through sort of Google Auth. You're ensuring that that user has the necessary IAM permissions. He has sort of that compute role and permission to be able to access through identity or web proxy. The other methods we saw is around sort of having like a Bastion host. But the recommendation always comes, if you're in like a Google environment, try and use the authentication that aligns with sort of identity and access management within that project, so you can give that granular control and access. So yeah, Yaku, anything you want to expand on that? I think that one's...
No, I can maybe just sort of summarize it into a few sort of bullet points to go for. So to access, there are multiple ways you mentioned. There's your traditional VPNs that you can set up, whether it is point-to-point VPN, whether it's using something like OpenVPN or Cloud VPN. And then there's your more modern access techniques that could be used in the form of your zero trust network access. In terms of Google's identity aware proxy is the leading sort of approach there. Another question here that is around security command center and posture, in essence, is I'm just going to read it out loud. It's, I have a security command center activated and have a compliance score of at least 70%, mostly green. Is that enough to be confident about my projects? Fatu, do you want to tackle that one?
Yeah, I will take this one. Basically, I would say it's good like to be green on the compliance part. That's meaning you did all the things necessary to be fully compliant through some standard. But what I will definitely recommend here is focusing also on the risk overview. This is basically where you will have all the information on your misconfiguration, the vulnerabilities that you have, and the recommendation that you can take. So basically, that's, I think, where you should be focusing and put some more times. I know that Security Command Center have a different pricing tier. I don't know which tier you are using. But basically, what you can see if you have a standard one and a premium one is quite different, because the module, you don't have all the module on the standard one. So please, I will say, yes, it's very good for the compliance score, but have a look on the risk overview and to see how you are. Are you green? Do you have any recommendation that the Security Command Center give you that you can apply? If you are green, I think, well done, it's all good.
Thank you very much. To tack on to that, I think risk is the main thing there. It is what risk appetite does your company have as well? 70%, 80%, it's great actually. It's significantly better than most out there. But it depends on your industry. It depends on the company, what industry you're working with, and your risk appetite. Financial industries might want to be pushing a bit higher up, see if they can get to 80, 90K. 90%. So I think there is exercise of evaluating your risk appetite internally as well, and then comparing the scores against that. Another one here would be, what certifications or documentation can you recommend to boost your security skills and hands-on practicals? So straight off the bat, two of the Google certifications that we had to go through with the security specialization is the Professional Cloud Architect certification. It's very good to have that, and it's maybe not as much security focused, but it gives you a good understanding of the various products that you build, products and tools you build with inside of Google Cloud specific. Then the other one that is very specific is the Professional Cloud Security Engineer, where they teach you pretty much how to utilize the security tool sets and how to configure the various components in Google Cloud to be secure. Other resources outside of that we often lean on would be the OWASP organization, and the Center of Information Security, so the CIS. So oftentimes, because Deimos is a multi-cloud partner, we go and we sort of not bootstrap, but we compare our security practices against the Center of Information Security benchmarks, because the positioning is much better suited for multi-cloud. Google themselves have a variation of this as well, which is their internal security documentation, security benchmarks. And then I think another area that you could play around with would be the Beyond Corp documentation of Google, where they position and they train and help build up skill sets around enterprise-grade security processes and security tooling. Can you share us the documents and slides? Definitely. We'll share the documentation and slides. There will be, if I recall correctly, there will be a recording as well, but we will share the information for you in public as well. Okay, last one here would be, what are the benefits of using workload identities over service accounts? I'll take a first stab at this, Dean, and then you can fill in the blanks. So when it comes to service accounts, it is, you can think of it as broad strokes. So your Kubernetes cluster has, let's start with a small cluster with a free node setup. Your service accounts are attached to those nodes, to the underlying virtual machine. Now, each one of those nodes can have a multitude of workloads running in it in the form of a container. Those containers, if they're relying on the underlying service account, all of those containers will have the same access as what that underlying node has. The workload identity, in essence, allows us to go a bit more granular and go, instead of attaching a service account to all of the workloads running on this node, we're going to attach a service account to a particular workload, to a particular container running, allowing you to give that only the access it needs. That a node can have workloads that require access to your storage buckets, or requires access to databases or caches or underlying file systems. But not all of them have the same access, or this access to the same buckets or the same databases. So workload identities allow you to go very fine-grained. We have found that manually managing workload identities become quite cumbersome. So we would highly recommend, if you do go the route, when you do go the route of workload identities, ensure that you put infrastructure and code as placed and automations placed to manage these accounts for you. Anything you wanted to add on that one, Dean?
No, you pretty much summarized that you want to go that more fine granular. You don't want your workload inside of Kubernetes to have the same permissions as like you're working out, because it needs, for that default service account, it needs a specific set of permissions to function, but it doesn't mean necessarily that your application needs that as well. So it's, again, always thinking from the mindset of what happens in the event that my application is compromised inside of that environment. The last thing you want is a overly permissive service account that an attacker can now use within that cluster. So it's mitigating that risk and giving just that fine granular permissions.
Preventing lateral movement, minimizing the blast radius, right? I see that would be it. Thank you everyone for joining us today. We will be, as I've mentioned, we will be sharing the recording. We will be sharing the slides as well with you. Should you at any point in time have any inquiries, please feel free to reach out to us. We will have our details, so the Deimos details are on screen right now as well. You can contact us by email at hello@deimos.co.za, and we will plug you through to Fatu and the team for any relevant questions that you might have for them as well. Thank you very much for your time. Again, please, we would appreciate any feedback. So if you do have some time, please fill in that survey for us so that we know how we can improve these sessions for the future. Ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.